All right, welcome to this special Monday edition of the Fragments of Silicon reviews. Mainly due to not the Super Bowl, but Petty's need to compete in Digimon tournaments, as has happened in the past.
Yeah, I think I have one of those tomorrow.
At least that's not interfering with our broadcast schedule.
Right.
So, anyway, we've got 4 reviews up this week. The first of which is California Games. Right, so California Games, where to start with this one? So I guess the history, a bit of it. California Games is one of those games. That is to say, this was a series of kind of mini game compilations of the age, though certainly not in the style of what you saw on the Nintendo Wii.
Petty, the footage has disappeared.
Give him a second. Anyway, this was basically the third in the lines of games. We had summer games, winter games, and then California games. Now, summer and winter games, these were basically knockoffs of the Olympic Games. You know, you had all the events, just they didn't want to pay for the expensive Olympic rights. Fair play there. California Games is a bit more unusual since, you know, there is no California version of the Olympics. So what do you do in that case? Apparently, what we have here is sports or sporting events that are allegedly popular in California. Although calling some of these, looking at you, footbag, a sport, is stretching that definition just a touch.
And this is footbag as in hacky sack, except for...
Yes. I'm assuming that's a copyrighted term.
I think it's like a brand name or something.
Yeah, because it's not the only one that's going on here. Because I'm guessing Petty's having a bit of an issue with the broadcasting of the game footage.
Yeah.
Seems to be, yes.
It's not like my window manager.
Maybe try another resolution. Anyway, so our events here are half pipe, specifically the half pipe. And this one was kind of a landmark in kind of the development of video game skateboarding, because you can trace this to Skate or Die and 720, and then, down, to later skateboarding games, Thrasher, Skate and Destroy, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Like,
there, I think it works now.
Okay. As mentioned before, it's got footbag, or you might know it more as hacky sack. Like, and, like I said, calling this a sport is, stretching it. This is definitely more a vaguely sport-related activity. I've always felt this way about hacky sack. You've got surfing, roller skating, BMX, and finally flying disc. Try to guess what this is in actuality.
Legally distinct from Frisbee copyright of the Whammo brand or whatever it is.
Yes. Like, once again,
trademark, I think, is the one, but whatever.
I'm like, yeah.
Anyway, Whammo owns Frisbee, and they're very litigious about it.
Yes, they are. Like, so you get the flying disc. I'm like, and anyway,
so essentially, viability for inclusion in this game is measured by the approximate amount of surfer broness of the relative events.
Or weed that you need to smoke.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, you got fucking hacky sack in this. There was no way that cannabis was not involved. Anyway, so that's the rundown of events. Now, another thing to note is this is not the original version, or what's reported to be the original version of California Games. Apparently, the initial releases were on the Apple II and the Commodore 64. Though I will mention that this game saw a lot of play back in the day. Because there are versions for the for the Amiga, Amstrad CPC, the Apple II GS, the Atari 2600, the Atari Lynx, Atari ST, DOS, which is the version that we're featuring here, Master System, MSX, NES, Sega Genesis, and ZX Spectrum. So while there perhaps could have been better versions to showcase, there definitely were worse versions. Like, now, which are the worst versions of that? Actually, like, for example, from what I understand, the NES version of California Games, not too good. And this was done by Rare. But here's the thing. Rare in the NES era, big old crapshoot. Sometimes you might have gotten Battletoads or Wizards and Warriors. Other times you might have gotten Beetlejuice. Or any other amounts of licensed games on the system there. But anyway, so we got the DOS version. So with that all in mind, how does this version play? Very creaky, if I'm being honest.
That's putting it nicely.
Yeah. So I guess we'll run through the gamut here, like any good minigame compilation. Half pipe. Basically unplayable.
Yeah.
Like, this one, like, half pipe, I think you're really going to need the instruction manual, because that is the one that's most down to timing. And also, certain moves, like the kickflip, you can only do at certain times, as the game would so helpfully inform me 9 times out of 10. Footbag, the one that Petty is playing right now, actually fairly playable, although, yeah, this game is stiff as shit. Especially if you're trying to go for the fancier moves / variety bonuses. Like the half axle. I don't think Petty has demonstrated that you can turn around by hitting the down direction.
Oh, what the?
Yeah. Like, see, it's not very smooth, but it happens. Yeah, and if you hit it at the right time, you actually do get the associated moves that are apparently part of Hacky Sack. I got to admit that this is a more complex version of Hacky Sack than I've ever played in real life. Because, Hacky Sack was definitely more just kick the thing up in the air or, hit it with your head.
How high can you get? Wait.
I mean, that's kind of the official motto of Hacky Sack. And anyway, moving on to surfing. Once again, this game is very stiff. It's kind of a rolling theme. Yeah, and like almost to the point of unplayability. But you can get in that sweet spot. In fact, one run I managed to get into that sweet spot to the point where I got bored because the timer is 2 minutes, and just like hitting right for 2 minutes is really fucking boring. Also, apparently this mini game stars Rip and Rick. I don't know why I'm supposed to know this, but it is known. Next up, we got roller skating. And surprise, surprise, this game controls very clunky. No, not as stiff as some of the other events here, but still very not fun. BMX, probably the second best event in the game, if I'm being honest. It's, once again, it's still very stiff. That's just kind of the running theme we got going here. Yeah, the key here, Petty, is to not jump.
Oh God.
Like, yeah. Like I said, this is the second best event in the game.
So what, you steer up and down and try to avoid stuff, or?
Yeah, you steer up and down, left and right adjust your actual speed, and jumping is, well, jumping. Yeah, see, you can actually progress a lot farther if you're not jumping. You still have to contend with the janky controls moving up and down, but those are definitely less janky than the goddamn jumping.
Also, it had been bothering me, so I just looked it up, and apparently BMX stands for Bicycle Motocross.
Yup.
Which is
Not
slightly contraindicative of what it actually
This
is.
was the 80s/90s, my guy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I wasn't sure. For all I knew, they just threw on the X because it was cool.
Yeah.
And that is certainly why it's not BMC.
That would make more sense, but you know, X's are cool.
But there is, in fact, no moto. That's rather the point.
Casio's there for additional promotional consideration, let's call it.
Presumably, they're in charge of the clocks in this sport.
And Epic's got paid money to feature their brand in the game. Mind you, this is an era where that was very uncommon. You know, 1987, you didn't see a lot. Definitely not unprecedented. Hell, there are Atari 2600 games that had that logo branded shit in it. But definitely a lot rarer back in the 80s. Anyway, and so moving to our final event, Flying Disc / Frisbee. Best event by a country mile, provided you figure out how it works.
I think I figured it out.
Yeah. It kind of works like an old school golf game. In that, you have... Yeah. Same kind of meter, same kind of, slightly unusual bar flow. But it's like you got to make sure that the angle and the power are in the yellow / green. Like, also, you can move the lady to grab the frisbee. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Have her grab, Like I said, it's still clunky, but it's the least clunky event in the package. we're kind of grading on a curve here. And yet here's skating.
Is this thing broken?
It might be. I'm like, would it surprise you if it was? Like I said, the
Help,
roller
I'm
skating
trapped.
was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you have to push forward continually.
I'm pushing forward.
Yeah. Maybe like hitting the button it just makes you jump. Yeah. And yeah, these are your events. So back in the day, California Games was actually quite hailed, quite popular, quite enjoyed, if you will. See, and I can't even say necessarily that this game has aged poorly, even though clearly it has in certain regards. But
Well,
all of the clunky
earlier sports games tended kind of strongly towards more orthodox sports, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Like I said, that's why California Games was kind of a revelation. That inspired Descendants. Like if you were into the NES, you might have played T&C Surf Designs, for example. Another game that was very clearly inspired by California games. But my overall point is I cannot definitively say that this game has aged poorly. Because I never played California games back in the day. I did play T&C Surf Designs, but that's neither here nor there. So, and it's also, once again, this game had a zillion versions across like all of the platforms of the day. We are showcasing the DOS version, emulated no less, or
DOSBox. It's emulated.
DOSBox.
Sure do love skating it. I could walk faster than this miles an hour.
At my disabled ass could walk faster than that miles per hour.
My overall point is I cannot say that whether or not this is a good game that has been ravaged by time, or if this is just a bad port of a good game that we are featuring here. And that reaches down into this version. This is not a good version of the game. Whether that be by time or design or whatever the fuck's going on here. This this is just a pile of clunkiness stitched together by a boss by DOS code. And I think Petty will back me up on this.
Yeah.
And this is important because, like I said, there were any number of versions to work with here. And they chose the DOS version, probably because DOS box was an option that was easy to hit. This is just my speculation. I could not actually tell you why they chose the DOS version and only the DOS version. I have complained about this in other Pixel Games UK releases.
Yeah, I can't recall that many games where the DOS version is like the definitive version.
Yeah. Like, I'd imagine if we had the Commodore 64 version, it would have better joystick support. But then again, how applicable would that joystick support be to a modern thumbstick, for example? Might have the same, problem here. My point is there's only one version here, and it sucks. And that's important to note because, I'm not necessarily ragging on the game, but I am certainly ragging on the version that is available on sale on Steam. It's like if you want to pick up, say, the Master System version of California Games, well, you're going to have to go out and get the Master System version for the actual Master System. Or, insert other version here. It's DOS or bust. And it's definitely busted. Okay, maybe not literally like some other actual old games that are sold on Steam. That's actually been a problem in the past. At least this one runs.
Yeah.
So, not the worst state it could ever be in. Anyway, so I suppose I should mention that this game does clock in at $4.99, or you can get the California Games Collection, which is California Games and California Games 2. Cannot speak to that because we have not yet reviewed California Games 2. Maybe it crops up sometime in the future. Maybe it doesn't.
Cough, cough,
also
subtlety, cough, cough.
I mean, that's kind of how it works on this show. And it's also in the Epics bundle, which is all of the games that Epics released back in the day, and that Pixel Games has the rights to. Once again, can't speak to that, but it's $53, so kind of expensive.
Mm-hmm.
We have reviewed some, we have reviewed some of the games in this, like Jumpman, but others like the original Rogue, we have not. Might want to do that at some point, just because all of the roguelikes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like I said, this is just a shit version of California Games. So do not buy this for $5 or at any price, quite frankly. Petty, Galax, anything you want to add to these proceedings?
Not really.
I've had more interesting gameplay from one of those Tiger Electronics handhelds.
Let's not go that far.
Fair, yeah.
I mean,
I've seen a Let's Play of the Mega Man 3 one, and it's fairly in depth.
True, but I'm like, I don't like that was bottom of the barrel gaming even back.
No, I know. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Like, let's not say things we can't take back. Anyway, so that's California Games. Right. So be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty will be reviewing Curved Space.